Hello, welcome to Mr. Rainwater's Flip Classroom again. This video is going to be for the 7th grade Texas history. We're talking about Chapter 4 and Lesson 1. We're talking about the ancient people. So you just finished making a foldable and all that kind of stuff. And you'll notice in the Google Classroom there are some handouts that you are to either print out or maybe you can do it online. You guys are smarter than I am on that kind of stuff. So the guided reading activity that's along with this, it's got lesson 1 on there, ancient people. And of course, we're talking about the early people of Texas. That's the title of it up there. The essential questions down there, what we're trying to answer in this, not the whole thing, but we'll eventually get to it, is how does geography influence the way people live? Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We've been doing that for quite a while. And how does technology change the way people live? So while we're doing this, you'll notice the directions there. It says complete the flow chart below. Use your text to help you fill in the empty ovals with the correct sequence of events. As I'm going through this lecture, you may pick up on a few of these things that you can fill in there. This will be something that you're going to bring in tomorrow. And by the way, I am going to have a Plickers question tomorrow, and I will flash it up there or do something. You'll know what it is when I ask the question. So when we're dealing with the ancient people in lesson 1, you might get to log into where the book is, to your McGraw-Hill section, and look at the video. It's called American Indian Museum. That's exactly what we'll be talking about. So in that video, I want you to pay particular close attention to where is the video, or excuse me, where is the museum located. The announcer guy or lady says on there where it is. What is the hall inside the entrance of the museum meant to evoke? That's meant to, what kind of emotion are you supposed to have when you walk into the hall? I've been there and it's a pretty awesome little museum. What does the museum hope to dispel? And so those are the kinds of things I want you to be thinking about during this whole lesson. And let's go ahead and get into it. The very first Americans. So how did the first people reach the Americas? Well, many thousands of years ago, this is reading from the book here, and you'll know where I'm coming from. Some of this stuff I don't agree with, but you'll pick that up. Many thousands of years ago, Earth was very cold, causing vast amounts of water to become ice. This lowered the sea levels and created a land bridge between Alaska and Asia. So people migrated from Asia to the Americas following the animals that they hunted for. Remember in science class, if you took me for science, that animals tend to get mad. They either migrate, adapt, or die. So these Indians, they did not want to adapt or die, so they migrated over into North America. So these early Americans, the first Americans, and the notes that I downloaded are blank. Go figure, we have technology is so awesome here. Click on it again, and it's very slow again. You all remember that at the end of 7th period and beginning of 8th period. Trying to get it back here, it comes very slowly. I apologize for this. So the first Americans that we have, and if you're taking notes, you can do that also through that. I may have to go to my second plan. Yep, going to have to go with second plan. The notes that I have on my online are blank. This comes from the textbook, so forgive me for that. If I find a way tonight somehow, I will post them on there and let you see them. So I'm going to go get into the second point down there, which is living in Texas. And this is we're trying to answer the question, how did the earliest Texans live? And there's another little image if you got on your book, the cave drawings and cave pictures and all this kind of stuff. Fascinating stuff. Wonder why did they draw the pictures that they drew, and how did they draw them? Why did they draw them? Uh, was it to attract other Indians? Was it to tell a story? Was it to record history? We really don't know, and some of it we do know. But the main ideas that I want you to know are these. I want you to know these, and so if you're writing things down, this is what I want you to write down. The first people to live in Texas arrived about 11,000 BC. I'll say it again. The first people to live in Texas arrived about 11,000 BC. That was a long time ago. The second point I want you to know is the early Texans were hunter-gatherers and moved from place to place. These hunter-gatherers are exactly that, hunter-gatherers, meaning they hunt for their food and they gathered their food from natural sources such as berries and fruits and plants and things like that. Hunted were the animals, of course, and possibly fish and things like that. So the third point I want you to know is the earliest Texans lived in rock shelters, areas naturally cut into the side of a canyon. You remember the western part of Texas that we talked about, the mountainous areas and things like that? That's where the earliest Texans were to live, and they made their shelters into the rock, which is just fascinating to me. We have some pictures of those that we can show tomorrow, and they're pretty cool. The fourth thing that I want you to know is new technology, including the bow and arrow, agriculture, and pottery, helped early Texans to survive. So those things you will need to know. I'll say them again. The bow and arrow, agriculture, and pottery helped the early Texans to survive. So when we come in tomorrow, those are the things I want you to know for the Plickers question. I might throw in a weird thing such as, I don't know, a sports car or something like that, something crazy so that you'll know what I'm talking about. And there we go. So that is our first two sections in this thing. So as our closing, I want you to think about the questions that we asked at the beginning. One is, how did the first people reach the Americas? We talked about thousands of years ago it was cold, and so they got mad. They migrated, adapted, or died. Remember, they didn't adapt or die. They migrated through a land bridge between Alaska and Asia, and they moved south toward Texas because they were following the food, which is animals. So it's kind of hard to follow the plants. So if you can narrow that down, you got it made. There are some maps on the book site that you might find interesting. They're kind of interactive. I'll make sure that they're on there. If not, we'll work it out because we're still getting this flipped classroom all situated. All right, so the close and reflect, we did that, and we tried to answer those questions. How did the earliest Texans live? Well, they lived as hunter-gatherers, and they lived in dwelling places that were cut into the sides of mountains and things like that. Alrighty, we didn't fill in much of the handout there, so when we come in tomorrow morning, we can talk about all of the lecture that we did just now, and make sure that you do the Plickers. So after the Plickers, we'll take this handout out and fill it in as best as we can. All right, looking forward to seeing you. This is going to be fun. Please leave your comments, not on this video, but when you come into class, tell me what are some of the things that might change. I know I'm going to try and make this dynamic and a little bit lively, scenery in the background. You know, this is our classroom, so not much to look at. And so, all right, looking forward to seeing you.